Okay, it's late night and we mustn't make a sound. For some reason, I've decided to record this late at night. Possibly because during the day, I don't operate well during the day. Chronobiologically, I am an human. The "an" was still right, which is adept at nighttime activity. I'm a night owl. I read an article about it the other day. I've been trying to put it in front of Jessie, my girlfriend, my common-law wife, the mother of my children's face. And she hasn't really taken to it with quite the same enthusiasm that I have. But I am very much of the opinion that I am a night owl. And what better time to record a podcast than 24 minutes past 23 o'clock, 2300 hours to any army folk listening, and an occasion for it. What a day for this to be happening! Oh my God! What a week! What a week I've had. We've had. Maybe you've had. I can't help but just thank you all for listening to the previous 2 podcast episodes, and please subscribe and like if you haven't already subscribed and liked. I must say thank you to whatever has given me this depth of speaking, but whilst my family below might not thank me, wowzers, feels good to be speaking with this sort of authority, the authority that depth gives you, which perhaps it shouldn't. Possibly that's part of the patriarchy, isn't it? Judith Butler would have possibly cited in her depiction of the masculinist economy, depth of voice being a signifier of authority. But it does feel like it, doesn't it? I feel quite at the whim of myself. So maybe you've got more research to do, Judith Butler. Also, what I'd say, among many other things that I'd say, is that I've been screaming all day because Liverpool Football Club went to Manchester United Football Club and they beat them in what can only be described as a football match by 5-0. To put this in some sort of context for you, for those of you that don't like football, that is the highest score they have won by in Manchester. Liverpool Football Club have won by in Manchester since 1936. And that was when they didn't play with football boots and like people used to just kind of get carried off dead at the end of matches. So it isn't at all the same thing. Have I said hello and welcome to the Alfie Brown Show yet? Well, 3 or 4 minutes in, it feels like as good a time as any to say hello and welcome to the Alfie Brown Show. I'm Alfie Brown, and that's those 2 words, and this is the show. Those are the other 2 words. It's me speaking about things for an elongated period of time. And I suppose the best place to start is probably... Before I start, actually, I will say thank you very much to the Have a Word podcast for having me. I was the guest co-host, not the co-host. We'll all be at pains to add Adele Phillips. But the co-host, Adele Phillips, got that wrong, and I think we're all going to try and make life pretty hard for her from here on out. Yes, I had a great time. Sorry, on the Have a Word podcast, absolutely amazing podcast. It really is funny if you like what could be described as that sort of thing. That sort of thing being. I always feel, and I don't know if you agree, that the best podcasts, or the podcasts I prefer listening to, are the ones that give you some sort of sense of the human involved. Perhaps that sounds too like deep or highfalutin, whatever. My favourite podcasts are the ones that give you a sense of the humans involved, and I love the Have a Word podcast. And what they seem to have done, and this is an amazing thing to observe as a guest co-host, that I felt extremely nervous before I went in the room, and as soon as I went in the room, my nerves dissipated in a sea of gorgeousness, and I felt totally and incredibly present. And I don't think that's a very common thing to have experienced within this sort of atmosphere. And what more, like, when you listen to a podcast, I think you're listening to it for some sort of insight or authenticity, or some sort of friendship, almost a friendship that kind of cannot touch, or whatever it is. Like, you are looking for who that person truly is through what you're listening to, and therefore you want a more authentic version of what it is that you're listening to. And therefore these presented ideas of what you get, and these kind of half-cocked bullshit versions of what people might present to you on podcasts is dog shit. And that's why the Have a Word podcast has so many Patreons. But it's also why, you know, some of the things that I say on there make me go, oh my God, did I say that? Not that I don't think it's funny, but just that they've created such an environment. It's like they've created a safe space for the unsafe. So do listen to my appearance on the Have a Word podcast, but at the same time, don't, if you feel like, you know, anything I've said might lead you to the idea that you go, oh, well, that might be a bit much for me. And then definitely don't listen to it thinking, oh, it might be a bit much for me. And then realize, oh, it's a bit much for me. And then have a go at anybody about it. And then also still listen to it next week when Dan Nightingale is back as the co-host with the most, because he is one of the best improvisers in the country, one of the best comedians in the country. He's just sensational. So there you are. And here we are. And my voice is absolutely going. But my, oh my, what an occasion for a podcast. I think you can agree, listener, and indeed viewer. The Newcastle takeover. I was asked what I thought of the Newcastle takeover by one of you who send in your subject matters, and I'm grateful to receive every single one of them. And especially after Liverpool Football Club have just beaten Manchester United Football Club by 5 goals to no goals. I feel completely in love with football. I feel completely in love with everything it can provide me. Jurgen Klopp says that football is and I think he's paraphrased this from elsewhere, but Jurgen Klopp says that football is the most important of the not important things. I think he's taken that from Arrigo Sacchi, but I'm not sure where the original quote comes from. Either way, I completely agree. It gives me an opportunity to be fucking stupid. It gives me an opportunity to be ridiculous. And everybody who feels like they're illuminating you with some sort of knowledge that you didn't previously possess. It's just it's like 22 millionaires kicking around a pig's bladder on a... Yes, yeah. What do you mean? What have you given to me there? What do you think there in saying that? What do you think that you've, like, illuminated for me? Is the answer fucking nothing? Because I think it is. It's just a bunch of 22 millionaires getting a pig's bladder. Yeah, that's fine. You might not be singing. You're into singing. That's just somebody pushing out noise through their kind of diaphragm and vocal cords at different widths, so that they might create some sort of melody like we all do when we speak, but in a cohesive way that adjoins to a kind of corresponding melody on a musical instrument. So what's that? Is that just a bunch of millionaires doing that instead? What are you talking about? Just yes, they're doing it brilliantly. Whatever fucking screed of skill we've harvested for ourselves out of this completely incomprehensible world, just be happy for us. Because they're brilliant. They're brilliant at kicking a ball into a goal. Not Man United, I should add, Liverpool. They're brilliant at it. And they should be celebrated as such. They're wonderful, wonderful. And I don't think that anybody who's trying to make their way based on a certain skill set that they have that others might not possess, if it's not at the detriment of anybody else, deserves anybody's sneering qualities. Formula One, that might deserve a bit of sneering. I could sneer at Formula One with you, but I couldn't sneer at football, for God's sake. I can sneer at the fandom involved. But at the same time, all of these people who say, it's just a bunch of millionaires pushing around like a pig's bladder on a football field. It's it doesn't matter. It just doesn't have any kind of bearing in reality, so it doesn't matter. And very often these are the same sort of I don't care about football because I'm engaged in real things. Very often the same sort of people that you'll see or hear make that argument are the same sort of people that will then chant, "Oh, Jeremy Corbyn," like a bunch of losers and idiots. These people are stupid. That's no thing to sing. Fandom has no place in politics. Fandom has a place in football. What I can say to you about football will not be non-partisan. It will be partisan. And that will be good. And that will be fun. What I have to say to you about politics will obviously not completely, but as far as I can help it, it will be non-partisan. It will be as removed from emotion as I can get it, because that's where we need to be if we're ever going to change our minds. I don't need to change my mind about football. I support Liverpool Football Club. I might have to change my mind about EU farming policy, and therefore whether or not my view is, the corresponding view is held by the Conservative Party of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, Conservative and Unionist Party, of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, or indeed the Labour Party, has no bearing on whether or not I should think or feel whatever it is that I'm thinking or feeling. Which brings us on to our first topic. Jesus, I'm sorry, it took a while here to get to my first topic. But I really appreciate your subject matters. Please keep sending them in. And the first one is the Newcastle United takeover. Because I do think, and even if you don't care about football, and even if you don't give a shit about anything to do with football, I still think it's incredibly important to talk about the fact that Saudi Arabia now owns a football club. Because going back to Jurgen Klopp, Arrigo Sacchi, whatever that quote was, football is the most important of the unimportant things. It suddenly makes football really fucking important. Because Newcastle United, Newcastle are God's own team. They're God's own team. They're a community club. They're one of the only football clubs with their ground in the centre of the city. You walk up the high street, then you see fucking St. James's Park there. Isn't that cool? Love it. You see that up there and you go, my good God, what a spectacle, what a thing. And it's like a totem of everything that the city embodies. The people there, they're so friendly, they're so great. Done gigs there loads. And lots of people think certain things about the city of Newcastle. I've never had anything but an extremely positive experience there. Also, the football club, there are some football clubs that have no fans, there are some football clubs that have loads of fans. There are some football clubs that have fans that have come in recently. There are some football clubs that have fans, that have fan bases built over generations. That's what makes me proud about being a Liverpool fan. Despite the fact that I might have this exceptionally posh voice, exceptionally posh today, I, on other occasions, or not on other occasions, my mum is from Liverpool, or at the very least Birkenhead, and my grandfather, he was from Liverpool. He was from Liverpool. And then my great-grandfather, he was the first person ever to call in the football results to the Liverpool Echo, and something called the Pink that was before that. So it's a history that runs deep, and it's a history that you, like a tradition, like a culture that you want to keep a part of yourself. Nothing else really matters. It just matters that you adopt the symbolic, possibly like cultural, maybe idiosyncrasies, maybe quirks, maybe something else. I love the city of Liverpool. And the Newcastle fans love the city of Newcastle. And I know a couple of second-generation Geordies that are like me that feel devastated and sort of conflicted and bizarre. For those of you that don't know, the Saudi Arabian government has taken over Newcastle United, the football club. Football clubs have been bought for a long time, but this is, I think I'm right in saying it's the most sort of directly, most overtly, most unashamedly a oil state has ever taken over a football club. I think I'm right in saying that. Because it might not be, because also Man City are owned by owned in the Middle East, and so Paris Saint-Germain, both sort of small conglomerates of Abu Dhabi based companies. And then there's a Qatar World Cup that's happening, which should of course be boycotted. And this Newcastle takeover is like the investment fund of Saudi Arabia has decided to take over Newcastle United, albeit only 80% of it. So we should all be aware of that before we make any vast assumptions about it. This community club, this God's own team, is now like a prop in a nation state that makes homosexuality illegal, that cuts up dissenting journalists with a bone saw, and now they own one of our football clubs. And these are things that would seem, and here's where, and it sounds like too stupid a thing to say, doesn't it? Here's where capitalism becomes a problem, because possibly capitalism became a problem a long time ago. But I just think this is so fucking stupid. There are so ways to make capitalism happen functionally and well without letting a murderous Saudi regime like take over a beloved family football club that existed and represents communities and has done for generations. And lots of my football friends are saying, oh yeah, the Newcastle fans love it because now they're going to be rich. Now they're going to be really rich. Way I blow this fucking man. You're fucking, we're the richest team in the world, God's own team. You know, Allah's own team, aren't you? They're all wearing like their kit, the Sheikh kit, to the ground going, fucking, look at us, man. We're wearing the fucking kit on our heads, aren't we? No, mate. It's not to be done. And then Newcastle United, the Twitter account came out and said, actually, it's really offensive if people are like dressing up like sheiks and like wearing the towels on their hat. That's actually really offensive. See, but Newcastle fans are just decline from doing that for a little bit. That would be so amazing. Aww. So nice to see a little bit of sensitivity from the bone sore people. You know? At long last. A bit of sensitivity from the bone sore people. But Newcastle fans aren't the ones that deserve our anger, our ire. And we're also, as if you are a fan of the Premier League or, you know, whatever, you're not off the hook, you know? You're not free to go. You don't get to admonish the Newcastle fans and say, well, you support an immoral team, but I support a brilliantly and beautiful moral team. And it's all... Football is not a contest of morality. It's a contest of who is better at football. Liverpool beat Man United, fucking Walmart FC, like, you know, billionaire shithead idiots. And we all get to enjoy a bit of that. We all get to enjoy the fact that, you know, they're rubbish, managed by an idiot. They've been, like, funded beyond the realms of human conception. Man United fans will always say, yeah, but we earned the money. Yeah, but so did Walmart. And now they're a huge evil company. Like, what do you not understand about the way that the world works? You still spent the money to be the best, and you're nowhere near it. It's embarrassing for you. Be embarrassed. Don't be, like, defensive. I just feel really sorry for the Newcastle fans, you know, because, and also, it's not their responsibility to know about geopolitical issues. It's not their responsibility to be able to go, well, you know, well, your man cut somebody up with a bone saw, so I'm now going to support the football club me pa got me into, or whatever it is. Pa, is that what they say, pa? I'm really struggling with the Newcastle voice tonight because my voice has gone so much from cheering on the mighty Reds that that I haven't quite got any left in me for talking about Newcastle, or for doing the Newcastle accent. But I do feel sorry for them. It's not their responsibility. When everybody goes, oh yeah, you're really happy now that it's not Mike Ashley, but what hypocrites, because now the bone saw people have taken power. It's not their responsibility to know that they're the bone saw people. Football is the most important of the unimportant things. And the only important thing to know about football is that you like your football team and that you want to win. And sadly, ownership and the concept of ownership and business has been thrust upon us in football, for those of us that like football. And it's such a shame because it shouldn't be the way it is. I don't have to know about ownership, or, you know, I don't have to care that LeBron James has got a deal with Nike and now he loves Liverpool Football Club because he loves Nike, he loves Liverpool. He doesn't give a shit. Nobody gives a shit. I give a shit. My brother gives a shit. My friend Adam gives a shit from the Have a Word podcast that we've already mentioned. We give a shit. And we give a shit about each other. We give a shit about the communal experience of what it is to support Liverpool. We give a shit about when we go to the game, or as they say in Liverpool, go the game. I'm going the game. I'm going the game. Can't do any of my funny set pieces tonight. My voice has gone too much. But what an event. I'm so excited about getting into bed and putting on the football and letting everyone have it. My oh my. Ooh. I used to get to a point whenever I would do the Edinburgh Festival. That's what I think about the Newcastle takeover, by the way. I think it's such an extraordinary shame. And I don't think that they're the only culprits. I do not think that they are to blame. I don't think Newcastle fans are to blame. They're the last people you should be blaming. And also, anybody who likes Premier League football, you're all corrupt. We're all corrupt. Because we're now all engaging in and with and endorsing a product that Saudi Arabia, as a regime that wants to wash away its crimes. That's why it owns Newcastle. It wants to wash away the idea of its crimes. It wants to culture wash itself free of its awful behaviour. And we're all complicit. You watch Liverpool, Newcastle. You watch Man United, Newcastle. You're complicit. And it shouldn't be stood for. It's absolutely wrong. But the Newcastle fans are not worthy of any more ire than any of us are. We all are in the same shit. Anyway, I wonder how long my voice lasts whilst I'm doing this podcast. 26 minutes in, and we're already showing signs that we really might not make it today. Wow, there's a bright light as well. Wow. I've not put the other one on because I didn't want to wake Jessie up. She's downstairs. She's not feeling very well. Also, the other thing that I used to do when I sounded like this in Edinburgh, I would always sound like this in Edinburgh because I would drink and smoke all month. My voice goes and I sound like this. And I would, I'll see if I can hear it. Wow. You know, it sounds like Tom Waits. Cooking up what is he building in there? We have a right to know. You know? It's good Tom Waits stuff, isn't it? What else is there that Tom Waits says? I went to the Shoes and Socks restaurant down the way, and look up Tom Waits online. That's not bad, and it's an impression I can only do when this happens to my voice. Excuse me, everybody. Excuse me. It's the tragedy of having a something of a deep voice, I suppose. Next on the agenda, is expensive toilet roll worth it? Well, I would have to and I apologise for getting into this now. And I really do apologise. But is expensive toilet roll worth it? I would have to say yes, but I would have to say also that isn't all, okay? Because I've lived for too long in a world in which I've been admonished by my girlfriend, my common-law wife, the mother of my children, Jessie Cave, for always preferring expensive or fancy toilet roll, for preferring a good thing to go on my bum hole, you know, my batty crease, the little kind of quivering emblems of your personality that exist in the circumference around your anus. And I'm meant to feel bad about wanting to keep those clean, am I? With the greatest comfort available. You fucking stupid. I'm cast as the fucking weirdo in this scenario, am I? And you are going to get away scot-free because you think we should get this sort of soluble, sort of damp, broken by the wind shit that as soon as we place in even sort of mild proximity with our anus, it crumbles and quivers to bits under the scrutiny of any shit whatsoever. I'm sorry, but I'm going with my proper loo roll. I'm going with quilted, good stuff. But that is not where it ends. Let it never be said, ladies and gentlemen, that I do not have ambitions for this podcast. Let it never be said that I don't have dreams and goals. Because I actually have a goal. I have a dream. It's of a sponsorship deal. And I want... this is true, actually. I really want these people to sponsor my podcast. This podcast, The Alfie Brown Show. I really, really want it to happen. The product that I would like to sponsor me is called Wipe. W-Y-P-E. If any of you are on the internet, please tag me and them in a social post. Something like that. Get them to know that I'm spreading the good word. What you do is you squit a little bit of it onto your toilet roll, which is why you want quilted. It turns it into a wet wipe for you. And you can... I should also add that I think that like dry wiping your asshole after a shit is barbaric. It's tantamount to barbarism. What are you doing? Have you ever tried to, pardon me, have you ever tried to like rub bolognese off of a plate with a tissue? It's a stupid thing to do. So much bolognese gets left on the plate, or whatever sauce you've got on there. Wipe it down with a little bit of moisture. Now you've got yourself a clean plate. So we're just, especially in an age whereby we profess as a generation, well, not my generation, but the generation below me, to want to shine each other's assholes so much. For the older generation, I will explain, to go down on each other's asses so much. Something that we profess to love to do. I mean, you know, some of us do, some of us don't. You know, it's all fair, and it's all fine, and it's all good, as long as it's healthy and consensual. What I do not consent to is a shitty batty crease, if I'm going to do you the service of going down on your batty hole, on your bum, on your asshole. I don't consent to you having an unclean one. Not when there's products available in the world like Wipe, W-Y-P-E. This is an advert, but it isn't an advert because they are not paying me anything. I feel passionately about the product, and I also think it's funny, to be fair. I also think it's funny, that's sort of why I'm mentioning it, because I use it and I thrust it upon my family, and I'm now teaching my son to wipe his bum with Wipe. I just think they should give me some money in return for the fact that I've obviously spoken enough about the product that the microphone in my iPhone has picked up on it. The algorithm has gone, oh, listen, he said like his bum sore, or whatever I've said. Why doesn't he buy some Wipe, W-Y-P-E? And then I've fucking bought it, haven't I? I was susceptible. I thought, yeah, that's right up. That is genuinely, and quite literally in this case, right up my pipe. And it's not like it's fucking wet wipes, which I've been using for a long time, like the washlets. So, I mean, what I would say to you is expensive toilet roll worth it? I mean, whilst the answer is yes, come on, let's think beyond that. Let's do some blue sky, you know? Is expensive toilet roll worth it? Yes. Is something beyond expensive toilet roll worth it? Yes. Is a bidet worth it? Yes, if you can afford it. A Japanese ass fountain? Yes. Okay? There is no reason why we shouldn't be cleaning our bumholes better after shitting. Just think it's mad that we don't do it more. In this age of, you don't need to brush my teeth 2 times a fucking day, but you're going to just go to like dab the shit off my actual arsehole. What the fuck are you doing? We've not... One technology has not caught up to the other. I'm amazed that like some assholist hasn't come to take my arsehole away. I didn't think the last bit through. Is expensive toilet hole worth it? Done. Newcastle United takeover? Done. I'm having a great time this evening, and I'm looking forward to you listening to this tomorrow. Please subscribe. I don't have any adverts to do apart from the one from Wipe, which was a joke because, they don't sponsor it yet. Please subscribe. Please like the video. Please review it on iTunes if that's your thing, or review it elsewhere. It's brand new. I'm not working with any big power on it, so it's not going to get reviewed for any awards, or it's not going to be the podcast. It's just me, a comedian, trying to improvisationally talk for an extended period of time in an amusing / impassioned, not informative, but engaging way, So I hope that you like the podcast. And if you do, right now you've been listening to it for long enough. I really appreciate that. So please, by way of, there's no payment for this. I'm doing it obviously for free. Give me a fucking like or review, or, share me on your social media thing and say that you like it. Screenshot the fact that you're listening to it, whatever. I really appreciate you listening to it anyway. I really appreciate everybody who's still listening up until the 36 minute mark. Next up is... I saw this one earlier and it really made me laugh. Which cartoon character would you cull? If you could cull a cartoon character out of existence, which cartoon character would you cull? I really don't know, because first of all, there are so many cartoon characters that I'd like dead, and also guiltlessly as well, because you don't have anything, any of the kind of humanitarian aspects to really worry about. That's what really gets me down about the sort of fantasy kind of killing vibe, is that there's too many real life casualties that you have to really engage with and trouble yourself with in a way, whereas with these cartoons I don't have to do that. So yes, anybody familiar with the Beyblade cartoons will be familiar with a character who keeps... My son watches the Beyblade cartoons all the time, and there's a guy with vertical blonde hair who has that what do you call it? Manga. He's got a manga mouth. He's got manga everything, but he's got a manga mouth, and he's got this lollipop that just stays in the crook of his mouth for the entire episode. And I really can't tell you with the ferocity with which I hate the fact that the size of his lollipop never goes up, it never goes down. It remains in his fucking stupid mouth, waggling with all of his, I don't know what you're saying. If you're only listening to this, I'm doing a manga thing with my jaw. Knowing that will probably not make it more entertaining or engaging for you. But I hate that guy, and I'd kill him. I'd probably cull George from Peppa Pig, just to see how Peppa reacts, because a lot of that is quite kind of knockabout bullshit, and I feel quite invested now in the characters of Peppa Pig, George, Daddy Pig, and Mummy Pig, not to mention Miss Rabbit and Grandad fucking Warthog, or whatever his name is. Hello, Peppa. Hello, Peppa. Hello, Peppa. Hello, Peppa. Hello, Grandad George. It was Grandad Pig. But George is anyway, to see how the family dealt with the loss of George. Or indeed how George and Daddy Pig dealt with the loss of Peppa. I'd like to see, I think that would be quite beautiful. How they chose to do it could be quite beautiful. Yakka D. My name is D. I like to talk. They call me Yakka D. Quite like to see her culled. And also, there's a children's cartoon called 64 Zoo Lane. 64, 64, 64 Zoo Lane. 64, 64, 64 Zoo Lane. There's one who's a moose, and one who's a goose, and one who is a chanteuse. 64, 64. And I'd quite like to see, like, a lot of the animals in the zoo get foot and mouth. So the last one's Georgina. She's incredibly tall. So Zoo Lane is where there's a zoo at 64 Zoo Lane is where this kid lives, right next to a zoo, and hijinks ensues. So I'd quite like to see them have to do a badger burning at 64 Zoo Lane. I really would. Okay, and that answers your question, actually. That's the best you're going to get out of me there. Reviewers is the next question. Those who can't do, review. I've had loads of great reviewers, actually. And I always think that people who don't obviously I'm a comedian, I'm a stand-up comedian. I always find that people who don't like reviewers are the sort of people that are shit. Like, the sort of people that don't like reviewers, they just don't want to... You are not well-formed enough as an act or as a human being to really accept some fucking criticism because you thought you were perfect. Get a grip. Every single review I've ever gotten, as soon as it's come out, I've been at pains to read it. Because that will help me. This person, whoever has reviewed me, their job, whether they deserve it or not, is to meet judgment on the thing that I do, in my case, like stand-up comedy in general, rather, more broadly comedy in general. They're comedy reviewers, not stand-up comedy reviewers. So who the fuck do I think I am not to listen to whoever that person is that has reviewed that as part of their work, their job, their life's work, their living? And I think, oh, no, I know better than that. Okay, and second of all, some of them are shit at their job. Some of these people who do meet judgment on stand-up comedians, and comedy shows in general, they are shit at their job. Some comedians, stand-up comedians, and comedians in general are shit at their job. But I trust a good reviewer to always spot a shit comedy show. And at the same time, I always back myself to find a shit reviewer. If you've given me a bad review and you're a shit reviewer, it doesn't really bother me, because I can sort of tell that you're a shit reviewer. But loads of good reviewers have given me bad reviews. They've been good at reviewing, and in their being good at reviewing have given me bad reviews. And I just have to be big enough to fucking take it. Stop being a brat. I find all of this nonsense about reviewers don't know anything. They do. Of course they do. I say this before I do my Soho run and subject myself to all these reviews. But, I mean, I've done it before and I'll do it again. I know what I am, and I know what I'm trying to do, and I know how good I think it is. And I know how good I think it is doesn't always correspond to how good other people think it is. But to downplay the value of the reviewer in what we do, and also to not take on board some free criticism that could make you better. A bad review could make you better. It's gold dust. I get so annoyed about how precious and shit and idiotic and ridiculous comedians are. Stand-up comedians who go out on stage to a room full of strangers, say love me, and then leave the rest up to the gods. And then they're going to be precious about the fact that somebody's gone, that joke wasn't witty, or it was shit, or like I see something that the author themselves didn't see. How on earth can you possibly think that there's no chance that they didn't see something that you didn't see? And I will concede, as my addendum to this little bit of impromptu passion that I didn't actually see coming out as we addressed reviewers, but it does lead us on to our next topic neatly. I will say that reviewers are whim to the same thing that I suppose we all are, which is, how best to phrase this, reviewers are still working at the whim of what they think the papers would like them to say. So that comes into it. And whether or not things feel like a hit for various factors. Obviously, identity politics plays a part in that, like what becomes a hit. And I don't necessarily mean in the direct ways that you think I do. Well, I don't assert that in the direct ways that you possibly take it. I think that identity politics can occur in a lot of ways. I think reviewers really react, for stand-up comedy specifically, when you spoon-feed them. When you go, I'm the left-wing one, I'm the right-wing one, I'm the centrist one, I'm the fat one. And they go, yum, 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 yum. I know exactly what kind of branch of identity to pitch this review. And that helps them. Because, like a lot of us, they're cowards. And that the best reviewers, like the best stand-up comedians, don't suffer from that rank, but albeit too pervasive, pusillanimity. Honestly, you try to say a big word and you stumble on it. Pusillanimity is a hard one, though. It's good. It means cowardice. I only know that because I read it in a book the other day, and then I put it in my words to learn, and then that's how people learn words. People often think that when you say a word that is like something you don't know, you're, oh my god, there's so many words. I don't like. It's not a magic trick. I just read it in a book. It's easy, and reading it in that book was available to everybody. I just did it. It's not like a status thing. It's not like a fuck you thing. It's not like a I know something you don't thing. Whenever anybody knows a word that I don't know, I go, what's that word? That's good. You know, especially if it's a nice word. But people go, oh, pusillanimity means cowardice. And, you know, now we can all know that. And you can say it, and somebody will go, meh. And then you'll go, I just heard it on a podcast. The podcast was available to listen to for everybody. This is not a status thing. This is not an elitist thing. The English language is there for everybody to enjoy. I just wish we didn't still suffer with that. I go out and out like with books, and people go, you got a book with you? Yeah. Like, what? Of course, I was reading it. I don't understand what the big deal is here. I don't understand why you've made a thing of this. Like, how bad is it going to get in years to come? I'm going to be turning up to a social function, listening to a podcast, and they're going to go, ooh, listening to a podcast, are you? Ooh, that's fancy. Instead of just smashing yourself in the face with a fucking hammer. That's good. Good. Any viewers who weren't listening there will see I'd actually literally got a hammer out to start smashing myself in the face with it. I suppose this brings us neatly on to envy, which was another one of the topics suggested by the golden boy, Horatio Gould, author, owner, operator of his own hit podcast, Boys Gone Wild. Thank God for that. Boys Gone Wild. It's really good. He does it with his co-host Andrew, and Andrew's good, actually. Andrew's really like a kind of charismatic evil character, like a likable evil. That's how I take him anyway. Not sure how he feels about that. The two characters work well together, and I like them a great deal. Anyway, Horatio suggested envy, and I liked it a lot. Envy, I suppose I would differentiate from jealousy. Yeah, interesting. I mean, let me know in the comments below how you would differentiate jealousy to envy. But for me, it would certainly be jealousy seems a lot more like you want something that somebody else has got. Like, I'm jealous of your stuff, but I'm envious of who you are. On a deeper level, I envy you and your entire life. That seems pretty much bob on, actually, where that would fall, doesn't it? I just felt like I was being insightful, but then I realised, oh no, it's probably just what everybody, kind of broadly speaking, accepts. That's what they mean, isn't it? I don't really envy anybody else's life. I envy money, but money doesn't really matter. Money seems to be quite like a lot of, well, it does, obviously it does matter, but it doesn't seem to choose its targets well, money. I mean, if it could ever choose its targets well. A lot of my friends who are really talented have loads of money. A lot of my friends who are not so talented have a bunch of money. I don't have that much money. My girlfriend is extremely talented and has a bit more money than I do, but still not loads of money. Like, doesn't seem to choose its money doesn't seem to choose its home too well. But I am envious of those who have lifestyles, the autonomy that money affords. I'm really jealous of, and I should say, no, that is jealousy. That's not envy. Envy is wanting. Envy, jealousy. Talking about those just before everything cut out and I cut back in. I was trying to nail down the idea of envy, wasn't I? Just before everything cut out, just before everything went away, just before all... Well, you don't know about any of this, but my camera just stopped working, but now it started. So we can all be relieved that everything's back the way it was. Anyway, my camera. And it does fill you with such a sense of dread, such a sense of utter worthlessness when your kit packs up. Oh God, everybody's going to judge me. Professional jealousy, which I suppose could be termed as professional envy in some in some cases. Professional jealousy, given the separation we've made between the two things. Professional jealousy could be wanting something that somebody else has got. Professional envy being, I suppose that's when you'd want somebody, like, you'd want to be as good as somebody. I never have that, luckily, because nobody is as good as me. So it's not something I have to worry about. There are loads of people who are better than me, by the way, but none that I care to mention. No, there are loads of people who are better than me, but none that I'd want to be. Like, you can accept people being better than you, but you can't accept people being better than you and close to you. Like, all the people who are relatively similar to me, I think, are worse, much worse. Apart from one person who I think is really, really good and probably better over 20 minutes, but worse over an hour. Anyway, none of us are on TV, really, so it doesn't really matter, does it? Nobody's, like, doing incredibly well, and nobody's doing awfully. We're all doing fine in our own separate ways. Cryptic, huh? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to leave the podcast here for tonight, for today, for this week. If you have anything at all you'd like to submit to me as a subject matter, I'd be delighted to take it on. I got my days wrong this week and have recorded this just after going to see my dad's brilliant new musical, the Tony Blair musical, the Tony Blair rock opera, poperetta. Yeah. Anyway, wonderful. You can't go and see it because it's not on right now, but by my dad and Harry Hill. So there you are. So I didn't get to do this when I wanted to do it, but I hope it's been all right. If you've enjoyed it, like, subscribe, do the whole doobry, leave a rating on iTunes. It's all really, really appreciated. There's nothing more for me to ask of you than to buy tickets for my Soho Theatre show, which runs from the 8th to the 13th of November. And besides that, that's all I could want from you, you know? That's all I could ever ask. So thanks so much for listening. I really appreciate it. And I hope it's a podcast you like. I'm going to keep on doing it. Any suggestions? And given the theme of reviewers in this week's episode, if you don't review it on iTunes like this, but if you have anything that you think would make it better, aside from a co-host, I don't want one of those, but like anything I can do better by myself up here within the confines of my own environment, let me know, because I'll take it on board. And if you're wrong, I'll ignore it. And if you're right, I'll take it on board. You know, that's how it works. Anyway, you're great. I hope you have great lives. Great things are going to happen for all of us, I'm pretty sure. Have a great week, everybody. Thanks very much. Take care. I'm Alfie Brown. Bye-bye.